Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here to do the Monday Night Raw Recap, which took place on August 11th, 2025 in Quebec City. We kick off the show with CM Punk, who obviously is, has a lot to say. He says that he feels like he let the fans down by only holding that title for 5 minutes. But the desire to get that title back is more than what it was to get it in the first place. He then calls out Rollins for following in his footsteps and says that once he's done with him, he won't have to pretend to be injured. So clearly CM Punk not done with Rollins, and who can blame him? And speaking of not being able to blame him, we then get joined by LA Knight, who comes out angrily, and rightfully so, and says that Punk ended his shot at Seth. So just because, he has beef with Punk, or Punk has beef with Rollins, that he needs to handle on his own time and not his. Both men go back and forth about why they deserve to be the next in line, and then they are interrupted by Paul Heyman. Paul then warns Knight to not get in the favor business with Punk, and is quickly shut down by Punk, as he invites the Brawns, another good name for those guys, down to the ring to get what they deserve. And then this sets up the main event between the Brawns and Punk and Knight. But yeah, this is a pretty good promo. LA Knight and CM Punk, obviously two of the best promo guys in the business. So they had some pretty good back and forth here. Getting into the first match of the night, we see El Grande Americano and Dirty Dom going up against Dragon Lee and AJ Styles. This is basically to promote what will be the main event at Triple Mania this coming weekend. But this was a pretty good match. I think they did a good job of doing just that, getting us hyped for that main event. 3 of the 4 guys that take place in that match are participating here. The ending, although the end result the same, the way we got there was a little different, as Dom gets the metal plate this time and knocks AJ into a roll-up win from El Grande. Cheating, tactics that aren't 100% honest, I guess we can say that. And it'd been gone a while, so we're gonna go ahead and bring it back. Monday Night Raw features a heavy dose of roll-up pins and DQ finishes. So if you love those, like I do, you're in for a treat. But yeah, I thought this match was pretty decent. You come to expect the metal plate stuff from these guys, right? And then yeah, I think them getting the win for now. Dom and El Grande on the same page. We'll see how that works this coming weekend. We then get Sami Zayn and Rusev, and before the match, we see a segment that shows Sami asking Sheamus as a friend to not get involved so he can work on a world title match, as we see him discussing with Adam Pearce. So yeah, we kind of felt like we were on the right track. We felt that, Zayn's appearance on SmackDown was kind of a one-off, and that he was chasing, the big title picture. And for now, that seemed to be the case. And Adam Pearce, I know we both have opinions on Adam Pearce, but it felt like he had been doing a better job as of late of having control over his roster. But tonight was an exception. Anytime he was on screen, he was either being very reactionary, which I guess is good if he's doing the right thing, but that he has to have some blood pressure medicine at this point, because he is always yelling and he never has control of the situation, it seems. So a lot of that tonight as well. But so because of that stipulation beforehand, I did think we were going to get a clean Rusev versus Sami Zayn. Silly me. I really thought we were going to do it. But I guess I forgot about Sami getting the better of the MFT on Friday. And I think we kind of discussed this on that SmackDown recap, that neither of us really thought that Sami was going to go after the U.S. title scene. And MFT showed up for revenge during this match, unfortunately. So we get a DQ finish. So 2 for 2 so far, technically. Interference and roll up wins. Yeah, MFT, I guess, just couldn't take the loss. And so, here for revenge. I don't know if that means that Sammy is going to go after the U.S. title scene, but it is. I mean, it felt clear to me that he wasn't interested in that. But I don't, unless this is just a one-off, two-off, if you want to call them, a couple of them together. But of course, after this, Sheamus comes down to the ring and gets some working on Rusev, and then they are separated by officials. That's later announced to Adam, who says, good, you didn't do it last week. Did you do any better job this week? So now Sammy has some beef with Solo as well. So I don't know, I honestly don't know where we're headed now. But all I have to say is, I think Sammy and Solo would make for some good action. But more so my takeaway here being that Rusev and Sheamus clearly, put them on the Clash in Paris card. That's all I'm asking. KP, this is the first half, very chaotic half of Raw. Let us know what you're thinking here. How did you receive the opening promo between Knight, Punk, and The Vision, Les Rollins? And then the tag match between Dominic Mysterio, El Grande, and AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. And then what was supposed to be what ended up being still a pretty good match between Rusev and Sammy, just cut a bit short due to MFT.
Yeah, we'll start from the top. Beginning obviously with the promo at the opening of the show. Logical, just transition from what we saw last week into this week. LA Knight clearly not done, clearly still wants to, keep himself involved in the conversation. Was wrongfully sort of like cost of his opportunity last week by CM Punk. So yeah, there's a little bit of beef between those two, and naturally, obviously, when you've got Braun and Bronson as well, they're obviously sniffing around the situation, looking to keep Seth at a distance from potential threats. I don't really see anything wrong with this opening segment. It made a lot of sense. Tag team match made for later on in the show as well. Obviously, anything can happen with that. Just a pretty much a standard opener to the show that you would expect to see. It made a lot of sense. It did the right thing, and it moved things along. So I don't really have any complaints against it. I thought it was pretty good. It was a good opener to the show, and set the scene for what the main event would be for the night. The match between El Grande and Dom, El Grande, Dominic Mysterio, AJ Styles, and Dragon Lee. I mean, I think it was a fun tag match. We had that slight little difference of the victory there with the plate, not going into El Grande's mask successfully, and actually going to Dom and his mask. So a little change, which was quite nice. Something a little bit different. A roll-up win. Obviously, this is a running theme for the evening, with these, non-traditional finishes. But I think just generally speaking, this is an opportunity for Dominic Mysterio to get another one up on AJ Styles, which obviously is kind of what happened. El Grande Americano, keeping his thing going against Dragon Lee. And like you said, this is basically more about the build towards AAA, and the AAA World Championship. So it does sort of have that is the main priority here, but then obviously you've also got AJ and Dom continuing their ongoing back and forth. So I think moving along in two nice directions here. To be fair, that AAA Fatal 4-Way is going to be pretty crazy by the looks of it. So looking forward to it. The heat seems to keep on rising, which is nice, and it was a decent tag match. Sammy and Rusev. Yeah, when this match was announced on X or whatever it was, I think it was last week. I can't remember. I immediately thought that Sheamus would get involved and would ultimately probably cost Rusev the matchup. But after what happened on Friday Night SmackDown, I was hoping that the MFTs wouldn't be anywhere near this, but unfortunately they were. This is really interesting because you've got obviously the interest of Sami Zayn that he wants to get the World Championship, but now he seems to be in the US title picture, which is just very, very strange. So I don't know, maybe if they're trying to buy time for Sami Zayn, as to what this means for him and the US title, whether it means that he's going to get a chance to win it, and whether he will or he won't, I don't know, because a failed run at the US Championship, does that really bode well for someone who each and every single week said he's going to be a world champion. I don't know. I feel like that maybe could be a bit of a detriment to him. So I think they've got to be careful with how they do this in the next coming weeks, month, whatever. So just to make sure they are doing things the right way here. If Sammy is the world champion, is the long term goal here, which I think it should be. Being a Sami Zayn fan myself, I think they've got to be very careful. And as long as they know what they're doing, I trust them. But yeah, this is perilous waters for Sami Zayn with the MFTs, circling around like sharks. I mean, Sammy isn't the only one they got beef with. Jacob Fatu, Jimmy Uso, they could obviously play a part as well. I have a feeling we might see a bit more of Sammy on Friday nights going forward, which is interesting. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The match was decent enough between Sammy and Rusev, and yeah, then Sheamus comes on down afterwards and destroys Rusev. They fight over into the crowd, and they have a bit of a brawl. Yeah, it's hectic. Those guys need to be on Clash in Paris, like you said, and it just has to be right. If they're not going there, where are they going with this? So I really hope that's the direction, and fingers crossed it is.
Yeah, you make a good point with Sammy. I think it does appear, the writing does appear to be on the wall, and that Sammy is going after that world title scene. But then to put him in the U.S. title picture, honestly, you could make a case to win or lose. It obviously is very much a side path. Losing obviously being more detriment than winning. But even winning, then, you have to kind of get him and navigate that ship for a while. So, if the end goal is to get him there, maybe it's next Mania. Obviously, you have plenty of time to do that. So maybe they're just thinking that's too long from now to get him started yet. But definitely planting a seed. So interesting to see where that will go. Getting to the second half of Raw, we then have a match with Io Sky and Roxanne Perez. For me, match of the night, and I assume these ladies will take that moniker. Most times they're in the ring together. I think this is just a snapshot of what the future of the women's division looks like, and I have to say it looks pretty good. This was set up earlier in the night. First off, Michael Cole announces to kick off the show that Naomi was unable to compete tonight. So originally that Io Sky versus Naomi for the title unfortunately did not take place. But as Io was talking to Adam, and Roxanne and Raquel were trying to schmooze their way onto a title picture scene as well. Instead, we get Roxanne and Io, which, isn't for a title, but I would say next best thing. Roxanne tries to get, the better of Io and with Raquel. Raquel really didn't play a huge part in this one, which was shocking, but nice to see them just letting him have a match for a while. But she did get involved towards the end, and then we also saw Asuka and Kairi kind of take place before the match, asking them if they were asking Io if they wanted her to come down to kind of make sure the odds stayed even. They said she did say no, but then we do see Asuka and Kairi at ringside, and eventually, inadvertently, cost Io the match because then Io is trying to hit Roxanne, but ends up getting in the way with Asuka and Kairi. So a long-winded way on my part to say that this match ends up being a inadvertent interference with a roll-up pin. So yes, we are now 3 for 3 that category for Monday Night Raw. But all of that aside, just because I don't want to come off as a broken record, but this is a really good match. Without the ending, this was a pretty good match. And WWE just needs to let their talent get beat sometimes. It's not the end of the world. A roll-up pin doesn't do anything for very little for the loser, and you could argue even less for the winner. So, yeah, I say it before, and I'll say it, I'm sure again, but just let them finish a match. With that, we'll get to the next match because it's clearly affecting my mood. We see Becky Lynch defend her Intercontinental title against Maxine Dupree. We saw this set up last week. What felt like Natalia telling Becky that she needs to stop being a bully and let her challenge for the Intercontinental title. Becky said you're on, but clearly wasn't meaning Natalia. She was meaning Maxine Dupree. Yeah, I think this is about pretty much what you'd expect. Becky clearly trying to show her dominance over the women's division. And Maxine gets a little offense here, and a little spark here and there, but for the most part, this match was pretty heavily controlled by the man. So yeah, I think that might be done and over with, but we'll wait and see. Becky just plays such a good heel. I think I've said that before, but her heel role is just so much better than her face role. Outside of the big man face run, I think she's just more natural as a heel. We then get into and I was harping about finishes, and we actually did get our one and only clean finish of the night with Maxine and Becky. So for whatever that's worth. We then get into the main event, which has LA Knight and Punk go up against the Bronze or the Bronze Squad of the Vision. And this was a good match as well. But as all things do, if it involves the Vision or Bronze or the Bronze Squad, it ends in a DQ. Seth eventually intervenes himself. I think, as the announcers had kind of said, fearful of the match result. So this ends in Adam Pearce having yet another decision to make, and he decides that he's going to turn this into a match at Clash in Paris because Jey Uso comes out, even though the crowd is chanting for the OTC. I think he is off doing other things. So instead we get Jey Uso, I think as absolutely was meant for Roman, but perhaps it's clear how the SummerSlam match ended with Roman kind of protecting Jey. I think we're probably seeing why now. But yeah, he set up that match for Clash in Paris for Seth Rollins. He will defend that World Heavyweight Championship against Seth, LA Knight, and Jey Uso. Excuse me, LA Knight, Jey Uso, and of course CM Punk. So yeah, I think that match was meant to be Roman, but regardless, that should be a fun contest nonetheless. All the faces are in the ring, and after this decision, and they eventually collide as Knight and Punk kind of see their tempers run over, and the Division sees this as an opportunity, takes advantage, and we see spears, tsunamis, and stomps given out to everyone, essentially. And once again, Monday Night Raw ends in a DQ finish with the Vision standing tall. So we got one match tonight that didn't have a DQ or roll-up pin. KP, let's hear your thoughts on that, as well as the action with Io Sky, Roxanne Perez, Maxine Dupree, Becky Lynch, and that main event.
Yeah, I mean, just continuing the theme of those non-traditional finishes with Roxanne and Io, and I think it's just sort of a testament to maybe when plans change, they don't really have a clear idea of what to do. It's like quickly fill in something just a little stopgap. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Naomi. Hopefully nothing too serious. Hopefully she's gonna be back on our screens soon enough. I think she's on an absolutely incredible run right now. Probably one of the best runs of her career, in my opinion. So yeah, hopefully we'll see her again real soon, and it's nothing too serious in that sense. But yeah, the show must go on. Chat plans change, things come up, and yeah, I think they did a decent job, regardless of the last minute plans. And yeah, obviously they've got a little bit of dysfunction between Io Sky, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. So the former Damage Control alliance there, I suppose, because I don't know if they're not really Damage Control anymore, are they? That hasn't really been a thing in a while. So yeah, sort of going back to that, and maybe like the it's not really as on the same page anymore as they used to be. So that's quite interesting. That sort of continues to sort of like have like little teasers as to the relationship sort of worsening between the three of them. I think especially between Io and Asuka, it was as was seen in a backstage segment after this matchup took place. But yeah, I think Roxanne getting a win here was huge, absolutely huge over the former women's champion. That's a massive win for Roxy. So yeah, I think in that sense, cracking for her. But the roll up finish, yeah, maybe would have been great to see a proper pinfall. But I can understand that they're protecting the talent, but then maybe sometimes you've got to find different ways of doing that. I think anyway. Yeah, I mean, going from that conversation to the next one. We actually had a match ending properly via submission, which I don't remember the last time Becky tapped somebody out via the disarmer. I don't know when that last happened. Probably a long time ago. But this is quite an interesting story because you just come off of a very, very, very good feud between Becky and Lyra. Um, and obviously, what's next for Lynch? We saw a little bit of Nikki Bella, and obviously that was sort of like teased to begin with, but Nikki was nowhere to be seen, which was quite interesting. Not sure why that was the case. But yeah, we now go over to the Maxine Dupree match, which you wouldn't expect to be anything big, and it went down exactly how you would think. Like you said, Becky dominating for the most part, Maxine getting a little bit of offense here and there, then ultimately Becky winning the matchup. I think maybe Becky and Natty might have a match going forward at some point soon. Which might end up leading to Nikki getting back in on the scene. I don't know. That's where my head's at the moment. It could go a couple of ways, really, I think, but that's probably what I would guess right now. But yeah, I think there's a couple of options there, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But Becky firm hand over the women's division, controlling it as she would expect to be doing so, and yeah, pretty dominant fashion getting the win. Yeah, that main event match, the tag team contest, disappointing. Not gonna lie, it was going all right, and then the DQ finish by Seth Rollins coming in and just attacking Punk and Knight. I don't know, like this one for me. I think we do sort of like speak about the DQs and the roll ups and whatever quite often, but this one really felt flat, and they tend to do this quite often. They get like a main event match, and it ends up, just ultimately falling flat because the finish is poor. And I think that was a prime example of what happened here. It's such a shame because this match could have been really, really good, and they could have had a bit more time to work with. But obviously, the plans are building towards that match at Clash in Paris, and I can understand it. But yeah, I mean, there probably could have been another way we got there. I don't know. It's just maybe a personal opinion of mine there. But the match itself, that's by Adam Pearce. That sounds great. Looking forward to it highly. Fatal four way should be great. Maybe one sneak in there, but not too bad regardless. But yeah, Fatal four way should be a cracking contest between the four men. And then obviously the beatdown afterwards. Yeah, that was kind of savage. But the Vision once again standing tall. It's kind of what they do. It's their thing. And yeah, just proven that they are the dominant force on Monday Night Raw. I got a question though. When do we see Braun and Bronson go for the tag team titles? Because once we see that happen, I think then they will have really a firm grip over the men's roster on Raw, and I think that's a possibility. Maybe not quite now, because obviously Braun and Bronson are very much tied up with other things, but. I think this is just a matter of time, right? Put them in the tag division, they're going to win the belt straight away, pretty much, aren't they? Really, and then we go from there. But yeah, I think that would be great to have them in that scene, but just to give them something a little different to do, rather than sort of like being involved with the same guys pretty much over and over again. And I think they probably would be still, but they'd have something else to focus on as well, which would be quite nice. I think we'll just add a little extra edge to the conversation. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know what you think of that, Nick. But yeah, in terms of this episode of Raw, I thought it was okay. I think it did have some downsides, being those finishes of the matches. But in terms of the content, I mean, there was a fair bit involved here. Stories progressing all the time. Obviously, change of plans with the ladies there in Io and Roxy, which is unfortunate for Naomi especially. Yeah, and then Seth and the Vision being just a massive part of Raw, which they obviously are. They absolutely are 100%. But I think there were a few people who maybe could have had bigger parts on this one, maybe similar to that on SmackDown, where we've been noting that recently. But I think it was a good show. There was nothing really that was like bad about the content, but obviously just those finishes of the matches were my particular problem. But yeah, I enjoyed the show. I thought it was decent. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Not too bad in the long run, and sets up some Clash in Paris stuff, which is always pretty nice. What did you make of it, Nick?
Yeah, I think if you take out the roll up no DQ or DQs, well, first of all, you take away almost every match, but you know what I'm saying. You take away that aspect of it, you did have some good in-ring action, and then hopefully that would have led to the main event lasting longer. But much like MFT, anytime we see the Vision involved in a match, you just know it's going to be interference. And so yes, I think kind of two-part. I think that the Bronson squad, I think they are going to be involved in the tag division. At least that seems like that would be the next step for them, right? But considering how much they are already featured, having them involved in the tag division as well just kind of terrifies me because how much more can we have them involved on a weekly basis? Even them coming over to SmackDown on occasion as well. So it's like, and people are struggling on that show already to get involved in the first place. So, I do think it probably is inevitable, but I'm hopeful that it is pushed off for quite a while. And then so worked up over the finishes that didn't even mention Naomi. Yeah, hopefully all is well with her. And then the prospect of getting a match with either the three of the former Damage Control members, but just thinking about getting some matches between Io and Asuka, or Io and Kyrie, should make any wrestling fan excited. So if that is the path we're headed down, I think anyone with the pulse should be excited for that one. But yeah, overall, I still take Monday Night Raw over SmackDown. I have for quite some time, probably since the time change for SmackDown. But speaking of that time change, we apparently had a promo with the New Day, very similar to Naomi's promo last week. That was done in front of the live audience, but then cut from the show. So I'm not sure what that's all about. I know Raw doesn't have an endless amount of time on Netflix, but I think their leash is definitely not quite as tight. So interesting that they've done that 2 weeks in a row. But regardless, I think this was a pretty decent episode of Raw. We definitely moved forward with stories. Just didn't like how we did it sometimes, but you all know that by now if you listen to more than one episode of this podcast. So for now, I will give this rating. I will give it a 7 out of 10. Could have been much, much better without those finishes, but it is what it is at this point, I suppose. But yeah, this has been another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We'll be back shortly with the NXT recap as well as the SmackDown recap. And we're also working on a few recaps for some PLEs coming up this week with the TNA and AAA. So something a little new, a little different to look forward to this weekend as well. But until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.